Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session from LiveLaw Academy and Advocate Avani Bansal. My name is Parvati and I handle operations at LiveLaw Academy. And today I'm very happy to let you know that we are launching our 10th course at LiveLaw Academy, and happily with Avani, who also was part of our first course at LiveLaw Academy. So we've right now had over 1,000 students at LiveLaw Academy, and today we are launching the third edition of our certificate course on Constitution. Our first two editions were a massive success, where we had over 400 participants overall and interacting with Avni over 21-week sessions. So we're launching a new session starting on the 5th of May. And we're going to discuss a bit about that, but we're also going to have a detailed session about why it is very important that you must know your Constitution. But firstly, let me just introduce to you, to those of you who don't already know, Advocate Avani Bansal. She is a wonderful lawyer who works at the Supreme Court of India. She did her undergraduate studies from the Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur. She went on to do her master's in law from the Harvard Law School and a BCL and MPhil in law from the University of Oxford. She received the Dean's Award for the Community Leadership and was elected the LLM class representative at Harvard. At Oxford, she presided over the Oxford Lawyers Without Borders. She's very passionate activist about gender issues and women's rights in India. She's also the founder of the first digital newspaper for women, The Womb. She also runs her own program called the Hamara Kanun and the Hamara Samvidhan, which discusses the Constitution in detail in Hindi. Thank you, Avni, for joining us today. Over to you. Please let us know why we must know our Constitution.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Parvati. And good evening to everybody who has joined us on a Sunday evening to discuss the Constitution of India. If there are many of you watching this, there's hope in the country that people care for the Constitution of India, that they're keen to understand about the Constitution of India. So I'll be speaking for about 30 minutes, and I'll just give you a rough breakdown of how we're going to divide this. So I just want to speak briefly to you about this course, just very briefly. Parvati is here. She can share all the details about the course. But I just want to talk to you about why I started this course and how am I looking at structuring it. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about, why you must know your Constitution. In fact, there's this famous book by Mr. Fali Nariman, which says you must know your Constitution. I had the good fortune of actually interning with Mr. Fali Nariman. And as we all know, hopefully even the non-lawyers would know that Mr. Nariman was actually one of the biggest doyens in the Indian legal industry and one of the greatest constitutionalists who has helped lay down some major landmark decisions. So this entire course, to be honest, is not just going to be about an academic exercise. The idea is to bring it a practitioner's viewpoint, but also to weave in stories about the Supreme Court of India, about how we have traversed through different challenges. So I'll talk a little bit about that as to why you must know your Constitution and why this course is important and why have we made sure that this course is open to all, irrespective of whether you are a law student, lawyer, or you have nothing to do with law. I'll talk a little bit about that. And in the end, then I'll request Parvati to come in and share any vital details regarding the structure, fee, how to register, etc. So I'm sure Parvati can take care of that. So let's just begin with, why this course? Why an online certificate course on Constitution of India? Why for 21 weeks with every class about 3 hours? So you're looking at roughly 70 hours plus or minus a few. And even when we say, from my previous experience, when we say the classes are for 3 hours, sometimes they do tend to stretch, maybe by 15, 20 minutes, sometimes even 30 minutes. So the first thing is that I realized I had registered 2011 as a lawyer. So it's been about 14 years of practice for me. During this time, I've gone to the district court, I've practiced in the high court, and of course, I've taken up matters in the Supreme Court. And what I realized is that what's lacking in India is a comprehensive course on Constitution of India that most importantly elevates the fear that people have as regards reading the Constitution of India. We all know that Constitution of India, what is the Constitution of India? In very simple words, it's like a blueprint for a country, a blueprint to understand where your country has traveled from, what has the journey been like, to understand the past of a country, to also understand its present. So, for example, if you want to today understand the social, political, cultural milieu of India, you cannot do so without first understanding where does the constitution pitches our polity. So to understand the present, you need to understand the constitution. But more importantly, to understand where India is going, what is the future we are going to take, and what are some of the choices that we will have to make, and how does the constitution weigh in on that? For that too, we need to understand the Constitution of India. Now, you might say, well, at a collective level, I get the point about, the importance of understanding the constitution. But does it in any way affect me as an individual? Does my decision making, or does me knowing the Constitution of India or not knowing the Constitution of India, does that in any way changes the overall quality of my life? And my answer to that would be a resounding yes. And let me give you a few examples. See, depending on who you are, you will interact with the state in one way or the other. For example, let's say you're an entrepreneur and you are looking at, getting a license for your factory, or you're looking at getting some regulatory permissions. What these regulatory permissions are, and if you think, let's say you are doing something in an upcoming technology for which there's nothing in India. Let's say you want to do something around, bio waste in India, and you feel that actually there's nothing in India. Or let's say you want to do something around protecting privacy, and you feel like, unlike Europe, we still don't have a privacy code in India. All these questions will eventually take you to think and therefore understand why is it that we don't have a legal statutory framework? What is it in the constitution that I can use to ensure that I put a pressure on the government, either through civil society or through a petition or other ways, to ensure that we do have these laws in India? That's just for entrepreneurs. Now think about it. Let's say, you are in a marriage, and a marriage, unfortunately, is not going very well. And your wife, let's say, files, a case of domestic violence in a local criminal court. And I get these calls a lot of times, and, men ask me, why is it that these laws in India have suddenly, become women-centric? They seem to be leaning in favor of women. So, for example, why is it that under the Domestic Violence Act in India, men cannot file a complaint to say that, I am a victim of domestic violence? Now, you might say this is a very specific example, but actually, if you think about it, domestic violence of India has a connection with the Constitution of India. Think of it like this. The Constitution of India is like the mother of all laws in India. So irrespective of what your profession is, what you do, what you're having to interact with on a daily basis, eventually all legal questions that you cull out of it will direct towards the Constitution of India. So it's like this meta framework. Once you understand that, irrespective of what you're dealing with, becomes very clear. So for example, in India, as per our Constitution, there are certain provisions which would say that we need to give a special treatment to people of certain class. What does that mean? So, for example, women, the state can make special provisions for women, and Domestic Violence Act is an example of it. But where do you cross the line? Where do you say that we need to, on the one hand, protect women, ensure that they're not recipients of violence, but at the same time also ensure that there is an overall right to equality between men and women? Similarly, for example, reservation has been a big challenge in India, and it's going on for the last 70 years. It's a big challenge now. So let's say if you're somebody from a SC/ST community or in a OBC community, generally classified as a backward class, you might think that reservation is my right, that for me to be treated equally, for me to get an equal opportunity, it is important that the state ushers in provisions where I'm given a certain bit of an advantage over the others. Whereas, let's say if you're coming from a class which does not get reservation in India, you're likely to think, but then what about merit? Right now, these are questions that are not just for academic discussions alone. These are questions that impact the very essence of you, your life, and where that is headed. So imagine, in this 21-week-long course, we'll meet up every Sunday for 3 hours. And unlike the last two batches, I've learned my lesson from the last two batches. And this time I've kept it for a Sunday because I feel like, you want to keep your Saturday evenings free, but also Sunday kind of gives you the space where if the conversation lingers on for a little while, I'm happy to do it. Now, for those students, law students who might have read Constitution, during their law school days, they might think, well, I've already read the Constitution of India, so what's new here? And let us say if you're somebody who has never studied anything to do with law, you might think, well, is it not going to be super technical and complicated? So let me just talk briefly about the pedagogy that I'm going to use in this course. Now, for one, I've had the good fortune to read the Constitution of India. Of course, in India, at Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur, where I did a 5-year BLLB course, and Constitution of India was my honors course. So I studied it for about 2 years exhaustively and understood the nuances of Indian Constitution, and also, of course, various landmark judgments by the Supreme Court of India, combined with my experience in the Indian courts for the last 14 years. But also, I've had the good fortune to study Constitution A at Oxford and B at Harvard. And therefore, what I want to do with this course is give you sort of, a different experience, if you will, in terms of analyzing the Constitution of India, not just from understanding the written word, but really asking the why. So if a particular issue has been interpreted by the courts in a certain way, we'll try and understand why, we'll try and understand what have been the best arguments from both the sides. But also, in all of this, the idea is for you to be equipped with critical tools, that whether a lawyer or not, if I give you a certain situation, you're able to go back to the Constitution of India and not have this fear that, oh my God, this is like this, comprehensive, thick document with legalese, with, these different technical words. How can I even start perusing through the Constitution of India to make up my mind? Let me just give you an example. So, for example, if I said that the government of India, hypothetically, has come up with a law where it says everybody in India needs to speak Hindi. All right. So we know that language has been a huge debate in India. And as per the Constitution of India, we know that we kind of reached a compromise. This is something I will develop in one of our sessions, where we say that English is the official language, but Hindi we continue to use everywhere, including the governments. The high courts, for example, are left to choose their own language, but the Supreme Court of India functions in English. Now, let us say the government of India comes up with this law and says English will no longer be used, be that the Supreme Court of India or be that all the high courts. You have to deliberately use Hindi everywhere. And let us say you come from one of the states in South India where you don't speak any Hindi at all. And now you're suddenly thinking, oh my God, how am I to reason with this? What do I do about it? So hopefully by the end of this course, you will be in a position where you know where to look in the Constitution of India. We know that India's constitution is one of the largest documents we have, is one of the largest written constitutions, probably the longest written constitution. So where do you look for in the constitution? That's point number one. Point number two is, when you know what provisions to look at, will you have the confidence to read it down, to break it down? Number C, even if you're not a lawyer or a law student, will you have the confidence to know what to look in terms of legal research? So, for example, we'll start every time we're discussing a topic in the class, we'll also look at a lot of relevant landmark decisions. So on the question of language, what has the court said? Fourth, to try and understand how to cull out arguments, both for the motion, against the motion. Less like a debate, not like an MUN, but more like what we do in law schools, and we call it a moot court exercise. So when I give you a typical proposition, you bring out arguments from both sides. And then most importantly, you learn to think like a lawyer. And what does that mean? What does it mean to, learn to think like a lawyer? Well, if a common person, a layperson, is presented with a certain data or set of facts, and he or she is also made aware of, what are the laws, what have the judgments said on it, the way he or she thinks will be very different from the way a lawyer will think. And what exactly is that difference? Well, one of the differences is that a lawyer or a law student or a law trained person would know how to, separate the wheat from the chaff. So what of those facts or material will actually hold value when it is being debated in the Supreme Court of India, and what will not? So kind of sharpening your reasoning skills to see what will fit in when argued legally and what will not fit in. I'm just giving you this as an example to show that by the end of this course, my goal is not to in any way ensure that you cram up the Constitution. A, that's not possible. With the Constitution of India, you cannot cram it up. B, in every class, we will actually go with reading the provisions. I make that effort to read the provisions with you, so that at the end of the 21 weeks, you're not probably going to remember most of what the Constitution said, but you will have the confidence to know that you can pick up the Constitution of India, go to it any point of time, and answer the queries that you have for you. Okay. Now, in terms of further breaking down of the course, there is a huge portion divided. So we're calling it the A to Z of the Indian Constitution. Now, it's not that we will be able to cover every single section, article, provision in the Indian Constitution. We cannot do that, which is why we've divided into small topics. And if you go to LiveLaw website and you look at the detailed post on this course, we've actually provided an entire breakdown week-wise. So you know what topic are we going to cover in what week. But essentially, the scheme is that there are some areas which I'm heavily going to focus on. One of them, of course, is fundamental rights. So we know that in India, the citizens have many fundamental rights, and the reason we call them fundamental is because they are unchangeable. The Constitution of India says, these are guarantees given to the citizens of India, and therefore the state is mandated to protect them, which means that irrespective of the fact that even if we were to have a majoritarian government, which has a huge majority in the parliament, they cannot amend the constitution in certain aspects. Okay. So what are these fundamental rights? And most importantly, what have been the landmark decisions on these fundamental rights? The second big portion, of course, is how does the Constitution of India structure the polity of India? What do we mean by that? So I'm sure you've heard that India is a quasi-federal country, which means that in certain aspects, the powers dwell in the center, whereas for other things, the powers dwells in the state. What are the major lines of this division of roles and responsibility? But more importantly, the three organs of state that we know is kind of broadly used to structure the polity, which is namely the legislative organ, the parliament or the state legislative assemblies, which make the law, the executive, those who actually implement the law, be that, again, the executive at the center or the state executive. And third, of course, judiciary, the Supreme Court and the High Court, those bodies which are used as arbiters when there is a decision to be made and when there is a conflict on a certain question of law or fact. So we are going to see all these six bodies, that is at the center and at the state, and we're going to go deep in them. Then we're also going to take up, issues like union territories. What does the law on union territory says? What's the debate on language of India? What about citizenship? What's the debate? So there is an entire proper detailed plan. And based on our two previous batches, we've also made certain significant improvements in terms of the study material we'll be supplying to you. Also, after every session, not after every session, but mostly we'll also give you a lot of quizzes so that it's a self-paced form of learning. Those of you who think, well, I just have 3 hours to spare, you come and sit in the class and you read and you go, and there's no extra pressure of doing more. But those of you who probably have already read the Constitution and you really want to get to the depths of it and kind of make this like an advanced experience for you, all these study materials, plus quizzes and plus other tests that we will give you, that will ensure that you've had some practice, you've had some time to think deeper about issues that we will be discussing in class. One thing I really want to focus on is, I think the USP of this course, from my experience, from a design perspective, is that we are going to make it extremely interactive. So we have 3 hours, 1.5 hours, a small break, and then again, the remaining time, short tea, coffee break. But it wouldn't be like other sessions where I know that questions are kept for the end. Okay. You can ask a question as and when you want, of course, because for every session, there are so many articles we will try and cover that we'll have to weave in some structure. But at a large scale, we'll have to try and make it as interactive as possible. In my previous 2 batches, it was a wonderful, joyous experience for me because I had people who were running in companies, who were heading in companies. This time, Parvati tells me we've already had enrollment from students. Some of them are top journalists. Some of them are working with top NGOs in the country. So I think it's not just a unidimensional interactional where I speak and you hear. It's not even, bidimensional where you and I speak to each other. I want to try and make it multidimensional where each one of you as a student brings something to the table and adds something to the learning. And we all, have a takeaway, which is why once we have a group, all of you can share articles that you're reading, questions that you have, any further material. We want to make this sort of like a 21-week experience where we all kind of think aloud and share a lot of material we have. Now, what will be the study material? So I'll give you a lot of articles, series of articles after every class before the next session. I'll also keep making reference to a lot of books. So for example, right now I'm surrounded with my books. There's this one called Nani Palkiwala's Courtroom Genius. Now, in India, we have, unlike US, by the way, we have not come to a stage where we learn to interpret or break down the judgments, A, on the basis of the profile of the judges who were deciding, and B, on the basis of the profile of lawyers who were arguing it. So we will try and use that model and say, why did they decide how they decided? And is there a pattern in their judgments? All of you will also have an opportunity when we're discussing important cases to come to the class and make a presentation about a case so that you get the confidence that you can pick up a case. It's available on Indian Qanun. You've read it and you're arguing it like a lawyer, right? So it's kind of a simulation exercise to feel like a lawyer. There's another book I have that I'm going to touch upon in the class. It's Soli Sorabji. We all know, I mean, he was, again, another great lawyer. What were some of the tricks and techniques that he were using? So this constitution course is not just going to be about the constitution. I want to try and make it as holistic as possible. There's this one book, and those of you who are interested in the course, if you can get your hands on the book, again, do not necessarily purchase. I will share some important parts of it, but this is one good book, The Court and the Constitution of India by Mr. Ochinappa Reddy. If you can get a copy, that'll be great. And of course, I will talk at length about some of the people who have inspired me, not necessarily from India. And I'm sure we all know about, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? She was a judge of the Supreme Court, US Supreme Court, and just how she has gone about her legal journey. So why do these people, I'm thinking of Nani Palkiwala and Fali Nariman and Soli Sorabji and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, how do they contribute to our understanding of the Constitution of India? Well, they do because please understand, Constitution of India is not a fixed document. It's an organic document. It's very much a living and breathing document, which is why part of my motivation to teach this course is that the way Constitution of India changes over time, changes with the way we are changing as a society. It's very important that A, we understand it, and then B, we take our Constitution along with us and we grow together, right? So it's not a fixed document. So how have all of these giants changed the Constitution as per their times, as per their understanding, as per their ideology? That's something I want to discuss as well. Well, I can go on and on and on, but I think I want to sort of pause here for now and see, Parvati, how we're doing. If you want to sort of bring in some details about the course, and if there are any questions that any of you have, I'm very happy to answer them. This was just a broad overview of why this course, what's driving it, and what's the pedagogy that we're going to try and use during the course. I hope this was useful, Parvati. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Honestly, I can't tell you how excited I am to again discuss the Constitution with you, because I've had the privilege to actually overlook both of the courses that you did with us. And, when you were just making a reference to these books, I honestly remember how excited the batch with both of our Constitution courses were. After each of these 3-hour sessions, we'd have immediate texts with like, can you share a PDF of the book? Can you quote the paragraphs? And I think we've had the privilege of having a very excited batch both of the times. And I look forward to the same level of excitement this time too. And, I was thinking about, how do I tell people how wonderful this course is? Because being a law student myself, I had the privilege of talking to you and learning about the Constitution from you twice because of LiveLaw. So I thought about it, like, how do I tell them how good it is? And then I thought, the testimonials, what better? Like, I mean, what better can I do than the testimonials that the students themselves give? So a lot of it, like, I mean, right now I have the tab open, to be honest. I'm just going through the Google form responses we had gotten last time. And I think I'm just looking at some words here. She's simply too good. We love her way of teaching. And I think a lot of people want to say more about the knowledge, the innate knowledge that you have in the subject, but then also how you can crux it down into very simple language. I think right now, even during this discussion, the domestic violence example that you took, kind of cruxing, very complex issues of right to equality and right to fundamental rights, and just putting it into real life situations and explaining it so that everybody in the classroom, because last time I remember we had retired professionals who were, around 65, and we had first-year law students, and I think we even had some CLAT aspirants last time. So we were looking at somewhere from 17 to 65 years, and all of these people in one group, and the kind of different doubts that they had, the kind of different life experiences that they had, and how much time you would take out after each session to interact with them and to explain each and every intricacy of their doubt. I think I'm excited to look forward to the same thing this time. And, though I can't read through all of the testimonials, they just have to say that it's very exceptional. And one of the key points I would say is that out of 5 stars, we got an average of 4.58 stars. I mean, that's the kind of ratings that you see on, Google Play Store or something. So, I mean, take that number for what it is. So I think it's a wonderful course. I've myself sat through it twice. I would highly recommend it. But again, I think also another wonderful thing that we would talk about is the pricing that we've kept the courses. I'm not sure if Avani is aware of this, but having worked with Academy for a bit and having seen it, competition and, similar courses in the market, I don't think there's an equally affordable live session course that you can learn from directly an advocate, somebody who's practicing with the Constitution, a practical kind of knowledge at this price. I don't think it's available, because what we're looking at with 21 weeks is almost 65 hours of live teaching, right? So we're looking at less than, let's say, 100 rupees per session, and that's a crazy kind of price for which you can get a live interactive session with somebody who's as accomplished in this situation as you, in this field as you. But again, considering that the fact that we launched this course like 3-4 days ago, and unfortunately we had given an early bird offer, but our live session got a bit extended because we wanted to keep it on a weekend. So we had given an early bird offer, but unfortunately, our early bird offer is over. And I personally think that it would be unfair to kind of not give the people who are watching this live right now that sort of advantage. So I was thinking that maybe we can have a little offer that would last till 12 today. So like until midnight, if any of you are interested in registering for this course right now. So before 12, if you are going to register today, that is 28th of April. If you're going to register today, we are giving a 500 rupee cashback. And this is not to sell the course. It's just, I feel it's unfair to the people who came across the early bird notification. And unfortunately, the people who are just seeing the live now. So if anybody's interested, just register for the course right away before 12 today. And we'll be giving a 500 rupees off on your registration fee. Now, I think some of the other doubts that people often have about courses like this is, right, as we have, kind of kept it at a time like Sunday, 11 to 2, 3 hours, usually a weekend, everyone's free. But in the odd event that you do miss a class, do not worry, we'll be giving recordings. And last time also we'd given recordings. And sometimes even if the subject, it gets a bit tricky. So considering that maybe you're not a lawyer, you'd like to rewatch some of the sessions, that's totally fine with us. So until the session ends, and I think for a month after your session ends, so we're starting on 5th of May, your course will finish somewhere in September. So a month after September also, you can rewatch all of the recordings of the course so that you can get a comprehensive understanding. And finally, we'll be giving a certificate from our end and from Advocate Avani Bansal's end. Of course, we'll have a couple of assignments, a fun couple of presentations, as Avani just said. You'll go on live on screen, just like both of us, and you'll be discussing some topics. You'll have little groups for little projects. So after all of that, we'll be giving a certificate from the end of LiveLaw Academy and from the end of Avani Bansal. And if you have any more doubts about this course, feel free to reach out to me directly with parvati@livelaw.in, PARVATI@livelaw.in, or you can directly just WhatsApp me at 98471 28749. I'm going to say that again, 98471 28749. So if you have any doubts, if you want to take a detailed look at the brochure, so on the description of this YouTube video, you can find a link. You can just click on that link. It'll take you to LiveLaw, where we have the whole 21-week brochure, what topic, what subject we'll be discussing every day. But other than that, if you have any doubt, and if you want to reach out for scholarships, do write to me directly. Just write with a CV, a cover letter, and just explain why you think you should have a scholarship. We have, unfortunately, very limited slots for scholarships. So reach out, write a wonderful explanation, and I think we'd love to have you on board with us. So that's all from my end. But anything more, please feel free to add.
No, I just want to say it is my dream that every person in India knows, understands the Constitution of India. Maybe someday we will be in a situation where we can make the Constitution of India compulsory for school students. I feel this education needs to begin from school. There's no point in giving you the rights if you don't know what these rights are. There's no point of, saying the Constitution empowers you to live in a democratic, liberal, secular country if you don't know what these words mean as per the Constitution of India. So I think this education needs to be made compulsory at school. Till then, we have us, and we have each other, and we have LiveLaw Academy. So big thanks to LiveLaw Academy for providing this platform where we can make access to the Constitution of India and access to law of India, possible. We do have, from my side, I have at least 5, slots where if you are somebody who is not capable of affording the fee, Parvati explained with some detail that we think it's the most affordable we could have made, because the idea was that we're not looking at it from like a commercial venture. We're looking at it like more access to justice venture, and it's coming from that spirit. Some of you may have also seen the Wire series called Hamara Samvidhan, where I'm actually explaining the entire Constitution of India in Hindi, in simple language. It could be watched by anyone, but that doesn't give me the opportunity to explain in detail the legal intricacies and nuances, hence this course. And if you still feel that you're somebody who's not able to afford the limited fees we have for the course, I have 5 slots and LiveLaw has 5 slots. So if you wrote to Parvati and said, why do you need this scholarship? So it's not, I mean, of course, it's a combination of merit and need we're looking at, but if you think you absolutely must do this course, you have some credentials to say why you're a good candidate for this course, what value addition will you bring to the table? And for whatever reason, why is it that you can't afford the course fee? We have at least 10 slots available for us. So please do apply. And I very much look forward to seeing at least some of you in the class. So very excited for the 5th of May. And big thanks to Parvati. She's the one who I think is a nerve center for this course. And the reason we've been able to get such a vast, variety of people and hold the course together in spite of my schedule, which honestly is a little crazy, is because of the superb management skills that, Parvati brings with. I hope this will also be an opportunity for me to get to meet some of you, get to know some of you, and in whatever way we can accelerate each other's journey, in whatever way I can help you. If you're a young law student, very happy to do it. I, for one, understand the importance of mentorship. I've been, singularly, I would say, lucky to get some of the best mentors in my life, and which is why I'm able to do what I'm able to do. And so this course, while we will talk about the Constitution of India talks about everything. So we will talk about everything. It's going to be hopefully a free, fluid, intellectual kick for the next 21 weeks. And we'll learn. I look forward to growing together. So on that note, Parvati, thanks very much and good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Looking forward, everyone. Just a reminder, the offer that we've given of 500 rupees off will be till 12 today. And I think there was a couple of doubts in the chat box, so I'm just going to address that. Will the Constitutional Assembly debates be covered? Yes, it is part of our syllabus. In fact, I think it's one of the first chapters. So you can look at the detailed syllabus in LiveLaw.in. There's a detailed post in the description of this YouTube video. You can find the detailed post. And yes, a lot of people are wishing us all the best with this course. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I hope a lot of you register today because we'd love to give that cash back. So please do register. And if you have any doubts, you can reach out to me directly via email, parvati@livelaw.in, or you can just WhatsApp me at 98471 28749. Thank you so much for joining. Looking forward to meeting many of you with our new